The Avatar movies have left no imprint on the culture despite being wildly popular. Or at least that's what people keep saying. Here's a post that has 3 million views saying it is an incredible bit that we spent 15 years talking about how Avatar left no real imprint on the culture, and then they finally released Avatar 2 and it also made an insane amount of money, only to be immediately forgotten by everyone. And I know that it is difficult to measure things like cultural footprints and relevance, but I can say that every time I tell somebody that a third Avatar film is coming out in a few months, they are very surprised to find out. And not just because there's been no trailer or hardly any promotional materials released. Usually by this point in something like a Marvel film, you've got all sorts of casting news or controversies. And for example, the subreddit for the Avatar films has about 700,000 members. By comparison, the subreddit for Avatar: The Last Airbender has 3 times as many. The Avatar Twitter account has 345,000 followers, where the Fast and Furious franchise Twitter account has triple that amount. So if we accept the premise here and if we start to speculate as to why, most people have an easy answer, which is even if you have seen these films, most people cannot name any of these characters except for maybe Jake Sully. I could not tell you the name of the main villain in the franchise, and I've seen the first Avatar film several times. I've seen the second one once. Where if you look at the other films that are on that same level in terms of box office, and this is a list of inflation-adjusted box office receipts. So you see Avatar up there next to the original Star Wars trilogy. And that really does make for an interesting comparison because I grew up during the 1980s when the original Star Wars films just took over the culture. And during that time, if you grabbed a random person off the street who had never seen 1 minute of a Star Wars film and asked them, "Who is this?" they would probably be able to tell you that's Darth Vader. Because Star Wars was everywhere. The merchandise was everywhere. It was constantly being referenced in other movies and TV shows. Parodies and satires of it were everywhere. Comedians were making jokes about it. Everyday people were making jokes about it. I was 18 when the original Jurassic Park came out, and while those characters didn't necessarily become famous, the word velociraptor did not enter everyday language until this movie. And you can go down the list to much less popular films like The Dark Knight was a huge hit, but nothing close to Avatar. But a whole bunch of you watching this video can do an impression of Heath Ledger's Joker. Can you do an impression of anyone from Avatar? Can you quote any lines from it? So you have this really interesting phenomenon of a franchise that people love watching. The 2 Avatar films have grossed $5 billion worldwide. But the films don't seem to give the audience anything to think about or talk about or joke about or argue about between films. It just doesn't have that extra something that sticks with you.